Eggs have been called nature's multivitamin, and that isn't marketing, it's biology. Inside one simple shell is a complete protein blueprint, brain-building choline, eye-protective antioxidants, and fats your cells recognize as their own. For decades, eggs have helped humans survive scarcity, recover from illness, and maintain strength into old age. But here's the uncomfortable truth most people never hear. The moment heat, oil, and habit collide in the wrong way, that same egg can quietly shift from healing food to biological stressor, especially in aging bodies that no longer bounce back as easily. As we grow older, our cells become more sensitive to damage. Mitochondria slow down, inflammation lingers longer, oxidative stress accumulates faster. This means food preparation matters more after 50 than it ever did at 20. When eggs are cooked aggressively, high heat, long duration, scorching pans, the delicate fats in the yolk begin to oxidize. Oxidized cholesterol is not the same as natural dietary cholesterol. Research has shown that oxidized cholesterol particles are more likely to trigger inflammatory responses inside blood vessels, accelerating arterial stiffness, a key risk factor for heart disease and stroke in older adults. That rubbery egg with the gray-green ring around the yolk isn't just overcooked, it's chemically altered. The green tint is iron reacting with sulfur under excessive heat, a visual signal that nutrients have been compromised. Studies in food chemistry reveal that excessive heat reduces the bioavailability of lutein and zeaxanthin, antioxidants concentrated in egg yolks that protect the retina from age-related macular degeneration, one of the leading causes of vision loss in seniors. When you overcook an egg, you don't just lose flavor, you lose eyesight protection. Protein, often celebrated as the reason seniors eat eggs, is also affected by cooking method. While moderate heat improves protein absorption, excessive heat causes proteins to denature too aggressively, forming tighter molecular bonds that digestive enzymes struggle to break down. The result is less usable protein reaching muscle tissue, precisely when older adults need it most to fight sarcopenia, the age-related loss of muscle mass that increases frailty, falls, and loss of independence. The tragedy is subtle. People think they're eating protein, but their bodies are extracting far less than expected. Then there's the oil. Eggs don't cook alone, they absorb what surrounds them. When eggs are fried in industrial seed oils like soybean, corn, or sunflower oil, the problem multiplies. These oils are rich in omega-6 fatty acids that are highly unstable at high temperatures. When heated, they generate lipid peroxides and aldehydes, compounds shown in laboratory studies to damage cell membranes and disrupt metabolic signaling. In aging bodies, this oxidative burden contributes to chronic inflammation, insulin resistance, and vascular damage. The egg becomes a delivery vehicle not for nourishment, but for inflammatory chemistry. The pairing matters just as much as the pan. Eggs eaten alongside processed meats, bacon, sausage, ham, create a biochemical environment loaded with nitrites, sodium, and advanced glycation end products. These compounds have been linked to increased oxidative stress and endothelial dysfunction. Large population studies consistently show that processed meat intake, not eggs themselves, correlates with higher cardiovascular and cancer risk. Yet eggs take the blame while the real culprits sit beside them on the plate. One of the most persistent myths is that cooking eggs destroys nutrients, pushing some people toward raw or barely cooked eggs. But science tells a different story. Raw egg whites contain avidin, a protein that binds biotin so tightly that the body cannot absorb it. Biotin deficiency is associated with hair thinning, brittle nails, and skin issues, complaints common after menopause and andropause. Cooking eggs neutralizes avidin and increases protein absorption by as much as 40%. In older adults with slower digestion and reduced stomach acid, raw eggs are not superior, they are biologically inefficient. Another silent loss happens when people discard the yolk out of fear. The yolk contains nearly all of the egg's fat-soluble nutrients, vitamins A, D, E, K, choline, selenium, and carotenoids. Choline deficiency is widespread among older adults and is associated with memory decline, impaired liver function, and increased inflammation. Multiple studies have shown that dietary cholesterol from whole eggs does not significantly raise blood cholesterol in most people. Instead, the liver adjusts its own production. Removing the yolk removes the very compounds that support brain health and cognitive resilience. What makes all of this more urgent is the reality of aging physiology. After 50, antioxidant defenses weaken. The body's ability to neutralize free radicals declines. Inflammatory markers like C-reactive protein rise more easily and fall more slowly. That means small daily insults, overheated oils, oxidized fats, nutrient loss, accumulate quietly over years. There is no dramatic symptom at first, just slightly stiffer arteries, slightly weaker muscles, slightly foggier mornings. By the time disease shows up on a scan, the damage has been unfolding for decades. And yet the solution is not complicated. Gentle heat preserves egg integrity. Soft-boiled, poached, or low-temperature scrambled eggs maintain yolk antioxidants and prevent cholesterol oxidation. Stable fats like extra virgin olive oil or avocado oil protect against lipid breakdown. Pairing eggs with vegetables adds fiber and polyphenols that further reduce oxidative stress and support the gut microbiome, which itself plays a role in immune regulation and inflammation control. This is not about fear, it's about precision. Food is information, and eggs are powerful information. Prepared carelessly, they whisper stress signals to aging cells. Prepared wisely, they deliver instructions for repair, resilience, and longevity. The same egg can push biology in two very different directions, and the difference lies not in the egg itself, but in how we respect it. For older adults, every meal is a biological vote, a vote for inflammation or repair, for decline or resilience. Eggs have fed humanity for thousands of years, but modern habits, high heat, industrial oils, processed pairings, have changed their impact. When we return to gentler preparation, we align with human biology, not against it. The most powerful health shifts are rarely dramatic. They are quiet corrections made daily, invisible at first, but transformative over time. Cooking eggs gently may not feel revolutionary, but on a cellular level, it is. It preserves antioxidants that protect vision. It safeguards fats that maintain vascular health. It ensures protein actually reaches muscles. And it honors the truth that aging well is not about eating less, but about eating smarter. The egg has not changed. Our bodies have. And when we understand that, a simple breakfast becomes one of the most powerful tools we have for protecting health, dignity, and independence as the years move forward. For decades, the egg yolk has been feared, discarded, and misunderstood, quietly slipping into the trash while people kept only the white, believing they were protecting their hearts. But science now tells a very different story, one that reveals the yolk as the most biologically valuable part of the egg, especially for aging bodies that are starved not of calories but of critical nutrients. When you throw away the yolk, you are not removing danger. You are removing the very compounds your brain, hormones, eyes, and immune system depend on to function. The yolk is where life begins. It exists for one purpose: to nourish a developing organism completely with no external support. That means it contains fat-soluble vitamins, essential fatty acids, antioxidants, and signaling molecules in forms the human body immediately recognizes. Egg whites provide protein, yes, but protein alone does not run the human body. The yolk provides choline, a nutrient so essential that it is required to build acetylcholine, the neurotransmitter responsible for memory, focus, and muscle control. Low choline intake has been associated in multiple population studies with increased risk of cognitive decline, fatty liver disease, and chronic inflammation. Yet more than 90% of adults, especially older adults, do not meet recommended intake levels. As we age, the brain becomes more vulnerable to structural breakdown. The membranes that protect neurons are made largely of phospholipids, and egg yolk is one of the richest dietary sources of phosphatidylcholine, a foundational building block of brain cell membranes. Without enough of it, neurons become less resilient to oxidative stress, signaling slows, and memory suffers. This is not theory. imaging studies and nutritional research have repeatedly linked adequate choline intake to better cognitive performance and slower rates of brain atrophy in aging populations. Then there is vitamin D, another nutrient concentrated almost entirely in the yolk. Vitamin D deficiency is widespread among adults over 50 and is associated with weakened bones, impaired immune response, muscle weakness, and increased fall risk. Eggs are one of the few natural food sources of vitamin D, and removing the yolk removes nearly all of it. In older adults, low vitamin D levels have been correlated with higher rates of fractures, infections, and even all-cause mortality. The yolk quietly supports systems that fail most often with age. Vision loss is another silent epidemic of aging, and here again the yolk plays a protective role. Lutein and zeaxanthin, carotenoids found in high concentration in egg yolks, accumulate in the retina where they act as internal sunglasses, filtering damaging blue light and reducing oxidative damage. Studies show that these antioxidants are more bioavailable from eggs than from many vegetables, because the yolk's fats enhance absorption. Age-related macular degeneration remains a leading cause of blindness, and yet one of the most accessible protective foods is routinely thrown away. The fear that started it all was cholesterol. For years, egg yolks were blamed for heart disease, even as rates continued to rise among people who avoided them. We now know that dietary cholesterol has a far smaller impact on blood cholesterol than once believed. The liver tightly regulates cholesterol production, making more when intake is low and less when intake is high. Large-scale studies and meta-analyses have shown that for the majority of people, eating whole eggs does not increase cardiovascular risk. What does increase risk is chronic inflammation, insulin resistance, and consumption of ultra-processed foods, factors that have nothing to do with egg yolks. Ironically, removing the yolk may worsen metabolic health. The fats and micronutrients in the yolk slow digestion and stabilize blood sugar, reducing insulin spikes. Stable blood sugar is critical for preventing type 2 diabetes and vascular damage, conditions that disproportionately affect older adults. When people eat egg whites alone, they get protein without the regulatory nutrients that help the body use it properly. Hormones also depend on the yolk. Steroid hormones, including estrogen, testosterone, and cortisol, are synthesized from cholesterol. With age, hormone production naturally declines, contributing to muscle loss, fatigue, mood changes, and reduced resilience to stress. Adequate dietary cholesterol and fat-soluble vitamins support hormonal balance, yet many older adults unknowingly restrict the very nutrients their endocrine systems need to function. The yolk also contains selenium, a trace mineral essential for antioxidant enzymes that protect cells from DNA damage. Selenium deficiency has been associated with weakened immunity and increased oxidative stress. In aging bodies already under constant inflammatory pressure, this protection matters more than ever. The yolk delivers it in a compact, bioavailable form that supplements often fail to replicate. There is a deeper issue at play here, one that goes beyond eggs. Aging is not caused by eating too much of the wrong food. It is accelerated by failing to get enough of the right nutrients. The fear-based removal of egg yolks is a perfect example of how misinformation leads to deficiency, not health. People feel virtuous for avoiding yolks while their brains struggle, their muscles weaken, their vision dims, and their immune systems falter. When researchers examine long-lived populations, they don't find people obsessively removing natural fats from whole foods. They find diets built around minimally processed foods consumed in balanced forms. The egg yolk fits this pattern perfectly. It is not a modern invention. It is an ancient food that supported human survival long before chronic disease existed. The tragedy is that the damage from yolk avoidance is slow and quiet. There is no immediate pain, no dramatic symptom, just subtle decline that feels like normal aging until it isn't. Memory slips a little faster, recovery takes a little longer, infections linger, muscles weaken, and the connection to nutrition is rarely made. Reintroducing the yolk is not about excess, it is about completeness. A whole egg provides a symphony of nutrients that work together, not in isolation. Removing the yolk is like keeping the bricks and throwing away the blueprint. The body may survive, but it cannot thrive. When older adults eat whole eggs prepared gently, they are not taking a risk. They are restoring access to nutrients that evolution designed to work in harmony with human biology. The yolk is not a threat to health, it is a safeguard against the very decline people fear most. The most powerful nutritional interventions are often the simplest, because they work with the body instead of fighting it. The egg yolk does exactly that. It feeds the brain, protects the eyes, supports hormones, stabilizes metabolism, and strengthens the immune system, all in a form the body understands. The real danger was never the yolk. The danger was believing that removing it would save us. Aging does not collapse the body all at once. It erodes it quietly through thousands of small daily decisions that seem harmless in the moment. What most people call getting older is often the cumulative effect of missed signals: insufficient protein to rebuild tissue, inadequate hydration to move nutrients where they're needed, and micronutrient gaps that slowly disrupt hormones, muscles, and the brain. Science now shows that the body after 50 is not broken, but it is less forgiving, and that means daily habits no longer average out, they compound. One of the most overlooked realities of aging is that protein metabolism becomes less efficient with time. Research shows that older adults require more high-quality protein than younger adults just to maintain the same muscle mass, yet appetite often declines and digestion slows. Muscle loss, known as sarcopenia, begins as early as the fourth decade of life and accelerates after menopause and andropause. This loss is not cosmetic. It is directly linked to frailty, insulin resistance, falls, loss of independence, and increased mortality. Protein is the signal that tells muscle tissue to repair, but without the right context, adequate micronutrients, and hydration, that signal goes unheard. This is where simple foods like eggs become biologically powerful. Eggs provide leucine-rich complete protein, a key trigger for muscle protein synthesis. But protein alone cannot do the job. Muscle tissue is more than protein fibers. It is a metabolically active organ that depends on electrolytes, water, and minerals to contract, recover, and regenerate. Without sufficient hydration, amino acids cannot be efficiently transported into muscle cells. Studies show that even mild dehydration increases cortisol, the stress hormone that accelerates muscle breakdown and inhibits repair. The body cannot build in a dry environment. Hydration itself changes with age. Total body water declines, thirst signals weaken, and kidneys become less efficient at conserving fluids. Many adults over 50 walk through the day in a state of chronic low-grade dehydration without realizing it. Blood becomes slightly thicker. Circulation slows. Nutrient delivery becomes less efficient. Hair follicles, which are not essential for survival, are among the first tissues to suffer. This is why thinning hair often appears years before more serious symptoms emerge. It is an early warning sign of internal resource scarcity. Adding minerals to water is not a wellness trend. It is a biological correction. Sodium, potassium, magnesium, and trace minerals regulate fluid balance at the cellular level. Without them, water passes through the body without adequately hydrating tissues. Research in cellular physiology shows that proper electrolyte balance improves nutrient absorption, nerve signaling, and muscle contraction. For women after menopause, when estrogen's protective effects on fluid balance and collagen decline, mineral-supported hydration becomes even more important. Hair follicles depend on blood flow, oxygen, and amino acids, all of which are compromised when hydration is poor. Hair loss after 50 is rarely about hair alone. It is often the visible result of declining protein utilization, chronic inflammation, and hormonal shifts. Keratin, the protein that forms hair, requires not just amino acids but zinc, selenium, biotin, and adequate hydration to be synthesized properly. Eggs contribute many of these nutrients, but without consistent daily habits, even the best food cannot override systemic deficits. The body prioritizes survival over appearance, redirecting resources to vital organs when supply is limited. The same principle applies to brain health. Dehydration of just 1 to 2% of body weight has been shown to impair attention, memory, and mood. Older adults are particularly vulnerable because the brain becomes less resilient to metabolic stress. Choline from eggs supports neurotransmitter production, but neurotransmitters require water to function. Electrical signals in the brain are ion-dependent. Without proper hydration and minerals, signaling slows, reaction times lengthen, and cognitive fog becomes more frequent. What feels like aging is often dehydration layered on nutrient insufficiency. Daily habits either reinforce decline or interrupt it. Consistency matters more than intensity. A single protein-rich meal cannot undo weeks of inadequate intake. One glass of water cannot reverse chronic dehydration. The body responds to patterns, not intentions. This is why small daily choices, eating whole eggs instead of whites alone, adding minerals to water, spacing protein evenly throughout the day, have outsized effects over time. They restore the signals the body relies on to maintain structure and function. Inflammation is the thread that ties these habits together. Chronic low-grade inflammation increases with age and is fueled by blood sugar instability, nutrient deficiencies, and oxidative stress. Protein paired with adequate hydration stabilizes blood sugar. Minerals reduce stress hormone output. Nutrients from whole foods dampen inflammatory signaling pathways. Together, these habits shift the internal environment from breakdown to repair. Research shows that lowering chronic inflammation improves muscle strength, preserves cognitive function, and supports healthier aging trajectories. The power of these habits lies in their humility. They do not promise miracles. They do not override genetics. They simply restore inputs the body evolved to expect. For most of human history, food was whole. Hydration included minerals, and physical effort ensured protein was used efficiently. Modern aging occurs in a very different environment. Processed foods, stripped water, and sedentary routines. The body adapts, but at a cost. Reintroducing foundational habits is not regression, it is recalibration. What makes this approach especially important after 50 is the narrowing margin for error. Younger bodies compensate, older bodies record. Each missed signal leaves a mark. Each corrected habit removes pressure. Over time, the difference becomes visible, not overnight but unmistakably. Strength stabilizes, recovery improves, hair loss slows, mental clarity returns more often. These changes are not cosmetic victories, they are indicators of improved internal resilience. The most compelling research on longevity points not to extreme diets or supplements, but to daily patterns that support metabolic stability. Adequate protein intake is consistently associated with better aging outcomes. Proper hydration reduces cardiovascular strain. Mineral balance improves neuromuscular function. These are not theories. They are measurable physiological effects documented across populations. The tragedy is not that aging happens. The tragedy is that preventable decline is mistaken for inevitability. People accept fatigue, weakness, thinning hair, and brain fog as the price of time, when in many cases they are signals of unmet biological needs. Food and water are not passive inputs, they are instructions. When those instructions are incomplete or distorted, the body follows them anyway. Aging well is not about adding complexity, it is about restoring coherence. Protein tells the body to build, water allows it to move, minerals enable it to communicate. Together, they create an internal environment where repair is still possible. Not endless youth, but preserved function. Not perfection, but resilience. The most powerful transformation does not come from one dramatic change, but from aligning daily habits with human biology. When older adults nourish themselves with intention, complete foods, sufficient protein, mineral-supported hydration, they are not fighting aging. They are negotiating with it, setting terms that favor strength, clarity, and dignity. The body is always listening. Every day, it asks the same question: do I have what I need to maintain myself? The answer is delivered not once, but repeatedly, through daily habits. And over time, the body responds, not with words, but with how well it holds together as the years move forward.